replacing a failed and corrupt. Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people. The Washington establishment and the financial and media corporations that fund it exist for only one reason: to protect and enrich itself. The establishment has trillions of dollars at stake in this election. For those who control the levers of power in Washington and for the global special interest, they partner with these people that don't have your good in mind. Our campaign represents a true existential threat like they haven't seen before. This is not simply another four-year election. This is a crossroads in the history of our civilization that will determine whether or not we, the people, reclaim control over our government. The political establishment that is trying to stop us is the same group responsible for our disastrous trade deals, massive illegal immigration, and economic and foreign policies that have bled our country dry. The political establishment has brought about the destruction of our factories and our jobs as they flee to Mexico, China, and other countries all around the world. It's a global power structure that is responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money into the pockets of a handful of large corporations and political entities. This is a struggle for the survival of our nation, and this will be our last chance to save it. This election will determine whether we're a free nation or whether we have only the illusion of democracy, but are in fact controlled by a small handful of global special interests rigging the system, and our system is rigged. This is reality. You know it, they know it, I know it, and pretty much the whole world knows it. The Clinton machine is at the center of this power structure. We've seen this firsthand in the WikiLeaks documents, in which Hillary Clinton meets in secret with international banks to plot the destruction of U.S. sovereignty in order to enrich these global financial powers, her special interest friends, and her donors. Honestly, she should be locked up. The most powerful weapon deployed by the Clintons is the corporate media, the press. Let's be clear on one thing. The corporate media in our country is no longer involved in journalism. They're a political special interest, no different than any lobbyist or other financial entity with a total political agenda, and the agenda is not for you, it's for themselves. Anyone who challenges their control is deemed a sexist, a racist, a xenophobe. They will lie, 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 and then again, they will do worse than that. They will do whatever is necessary. The Clintons are criminals, remember that. This is well documented, and the establishment that protects them has engaged in a massive cover-up of widespread criminal activity at the State Department and the Clinton Foundation in order to keep the Clintons in power. They knew they would throw every lie they could at me and my family and my loved ones. They knew they would stop at nothing to try to stop me. Nevertheless, I take all of these slings and arrows gladly for you. I take them for our movement so that we can have our country back. I knew this day would arrive. It's only a question of when. And I knew the American people would rise above it and vote for the future they deserve. The only thing that can stop this corrupt machine is you. The only force strong enough to save our country is us. The only people brave enough to vote out this corrupt establishment is you, the American people. Our great civilization has come upon a moment of reckoning. I didn't need to do this, folks, believe me. I built a great company, and I had a wonderful life. I could have enjoyed the fruits and benefits of years of successful business deals and businesses for myself and my family. Instead of going through this absolute horror show of lies, deceptions, malicious attacks, who would have thought? I'm doing it because this country has given me so much, and I feel so strongly that it's my turn to give back to the country that I love. I'm doing this for the people and for the movement, and we will take back this country for you, and we will make America great again.
Welcome, Patriots.
Donald Trump.
Feisty Diggs, episode 41. It is finally here, and I promoted the shit out of it last night because you guys are not gonna want to miss. You guys are not gonna want to miss today. So that is for sure. We are streaming on X. We are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on Pilled, the one and only Pilled.net. And believe it or not, we are also streaming on, yes, YouTube.
YouTube.
That's right. Hey, Feisty.
Hey there.
How you doing?
You may get yourself locked out of YouTube with this deck today.
You think so? Good. Let's see if that's the case.
Last week was salacious, but this week is pretty interesting.
It's going to be a banger of a show, isn't it?
I think so, but then I think they've all been, but
this one particularly.
This one has some hard-hitting news.
Yeah,
yes.
you blew my mind yesterday, and I still am trying to wrap my mind around.
Yeah, it was heavy.
Yep.
It was heavy. So let me just preface that I was already working on part 4 of the series to show where we've come and where we're going. But a couple of things happened last week that begged me to add, I think, about 14 slides. So I had to break this into 2 parts. So we'll get the rest of the story about how the money was made opaque. We'll get to that next week.
Okay.
But I had to tell the story today that I'm going to show.
Yeah, this is the launching, to say the least. I won't be the only one being launched out of my chair today, guys. This is. She sent me one text yesterday that just floored me, and I can't wait to get into it. You guys are not going to want to miss a bit of this. Maybe even rewatch, share. Please, guys, if you're listening over on Rumble, hit that like. If you're listening over on Pilled, guys, hit that red pill. And we got a couple thank yous right out the gate. Let me just check with Rumble.
We'll start with Chris.
Go ahead.
Chris Doom just said that gunshots have been reported near the White House while POTUS was speaking. So say a prayer, everybody. Now go ahead, Sean.
If there's any indicators of really what's at stake,
today will prove it.
Today will prove it. You're gonna see real quick reasons why not only Trump's life is and has been in danger, but why this country has what we were all facing ultimately.
That's why I wanted you to start with that video, because it wasn't just accurate, but when Trump said this is our last chance, he wasn't kidding.
The timing is incredible of all of it. If
it
had not, I mean, AI, once AI is implemented, especially AI, then
it's done.
Then it's done. Like the timing had to be now. Like,
right. And it also proves that our path was always going to be about 12 years to get to where we were in a self-correcting mode. So it proves not just the first administration, but the Biden pause, as we've been calling it, to this administration, or as Trump said last week, his third term. It proves that we needed that full 12
Well, it
years.
looks like this
and then we're gonna
vampire
need
came
another
out of
4
mom's
years
basement
to
for a little sunlight,
codify
and
all of
obviously
that
the
into law.
sunlight is
So there will
affecting
be your
his mind,
16-year
throwing rocks
reset.
at cars. What the is your problem, man?
Oh,
Not
really?
happy with his first
Yeah.
attempt, missing completely, and now going for another rock. Tries to
Ash
chuck
says
it,
YouTube.
but this guy in the car says F it.
But
And it
that
looks like
shocks
Street Court
us.
is now in session. This guy's taking on the role of Judge
I
Dredd,
guess that's
jury
May 4th,
executioner, and booyah, it is all over. Judge drives off yelling, I am the law. While this guy
Can you
rethinks
get
his
those
shitty
gold,
life
the gold pill
decisions.
donations?
Go ahead and throw it to Ludacris.
Absolutely. Before we even started, we were getting Dixie gifted us a pair of shades. Thank you, Dixie.
Thank you, Dixie.
Well, it looks like this vampire came out of
It's
mom's
me,
basement for a little
Jen
sunlight,
Hall,
and obviously
gifted
the
us a
sunlight
cookie.
is affecting his mind,
She
throwing rocks
gifted
at
us
cars.
2
What the
cookies.
is your problem, man?
Sir Lurks-a-Lot
Not happy
gifted
with
us
his
a
first
can.
attempt, missing completely,
We've
and now
got
going for another rock. Tries to chuck it,
8088
but this guy
Y
in the car
Digital
says,
gifted
"Get it."
a
And
can.
it looks like Street
How's
Court is
my
now in
fellow
session. This guy's
bigot
taking on the role of
Supremes
Judge
today?
Dredd, jury executioner.
He got just fed up with a pair of shades. Truthful Mama with a can. And then, of course, Chris Doom with a cookie letting us know about the shots fired.
Oh, enable auto start. There we go. Error, please use keyframe. Stop. Cancel. Click here to start streaming. You're live. All right. All right, we should be good now. This is the first time I've ever done YouTube, so I don't even. I'm learning all this process in real time. Why? Because nobody's gonna want to miss this one.
So let me, before we get going.
Call Bobby. Bobby says, "Call me Bobby." Name's Bobby.
Yeah,
Digital,
I was
but call
going to
me
say
Bobby.
that. Thank you, Bobby. I did not catch that. And
S-
now I see it.
Yeah, and thank you, S Jones 39 for the cookie. Says supposed to say, "Can't wait, Feisty." Good. Thank you, S Jones, and thank you everybody. Like I said, please hit that red pill, hit that like over on Rumble. All right. So
Why did you miss Duppy's?
what did Duppy say?
Launch his lobster ass.
Launch his lobster ass.
He gifted a cookie to make sure that got said.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
crazy.
And you just walked right past it.
Yeah. I didn't see it. All right. So you got me even doing some digging into Anthropic as well.
Good.
Yeah. Which has shown itself to be a, when they say national security threat, to say the least. Holy cow.
I have over 200 pages of research into that
Okay. Yeah.
and what the story is. I've codified it. It's only in the slides one time, but I've codified it in one slide. But I've got, just so you know, I took that 200 pages and I think I made a fairly decent 5-page summary.
Okay.
It took a lot. I spent a lot of time on just this part of the story because it's vital to the whole story. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in if you don't
Please.
mind.
No, please. Good to see April A&E, Jackie One, Military Mom, Blue Eyes, Shelly, Only One NRS, Dixie. Hey, Dixie. Guys, make sure to please show the mods some love if and when you see them in the chat. We appreciate all their hard work. All right, what do you got here? Look at these beautiful slides.
Aren't they
Woo-hoo.
gorgeous?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so I've been working really hard on this series. As you know, we call it the launch of the Purple Revolution. When we started out, we showed the timeline of all the oppositions since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
We went through all those timelines. And we showed some current things to include what's happening at the Vatican with the reset there, as well as some of the things going on here with the reset. The next week, I was going to detail the MIC nerve center, but SPLC dropped. So I preempted and I gave us the SPLC hub because with that, from launching the revolution to that shift which really highlighted that. The shift from traditional politics to insurgency was very evident. When you look at the slides, I did one a year, and I couldn't obviously put everything on every slide, but I pointed to some key pieces. But that insurgency on American soil really did feed into this hub of the SPLC, and we talked about how just one nonprofit became a clearinghouse for ideological targets, the information war. It provided the threat narrative that all of the federal agencies needed to weaponize law against the American people. And that was highlighted in the SPLC hub. From that, I took that into, instead of doing the MIC, I just did the Opposition Nerve Center, which was the LCCHR hub that the SPLC comes out of.
That's the learning conference. I'm sorry, the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights.
Right.
Run by Maya Wiley.
Maya Wiley. We went through that, and you found a video at the very end of that show that proved everything I just said in 34 slides or whatever. So that particular moat, I'm calling it a moat, an administrative moat. It's made up of lawyers and bureaucrats and NGO billionaires, all the suspects, right? They built a fortress, if you will, around the West Wing to ensure that even when we change a president, we don't change their agenda. And that's what that was designed to show you. And I believe I did a pretty good job of proving that.
Yep.
So today, this was supposed to be the final deck, right? The transparency convergence, showing how we're moving from those shadow forces into executive control, where we're actually getting back our elected president and his agenda versus theirs. But because of some things that happened this week, I'm forced to break this into two shows because those actions are so important to talk about. And with that, it actually shows you, proves to you what I've been saying. So we're going to be talking about the actions that bring about that transparency convergence. And with that, we're going to be showing 5 key things I'd like you to keep in mind, because these are all verifiable. You can look them all up. But we've got, it's not a theory, right? This isn't conspiracy.
Everything about this is all open source, guys.
All open source.
Yep.
So just so you know, when I got done, I PDF'd my slides, uploaded it to AI, and said, give me a score from 1 to 100 on fact versus conspiracy. Didn't like words like purple revolution. It didn't like words like deep state, but it gave me a 92% fact versus conspiracy. And the only reason for the downgrade is because it didn't like some of the words I used. Not that there were any facts that were wrong. In fact, it commented on how strong this deck was factually. So I'm just going to point that out. I busted on this one because of some of the story, but nevertheless, when you go from the Sapir mandate with the 6-month reserve on precursors for our drugs to the Hensley accountability, which just happened on April 22nd, you're actually seeing these pillars come through. Okay, and this is what, and there's a couple of more, but I couldn't fit them. And I'll detail more of those next week with the more financial side. Just so you know, I'll have another slide with more verifiable breakthroughs. But I want you, as I go through this deck, keep this slide in mind. In fact, make a photocopy of it, hold it, look at it, because as I go through this deck, you're going to see all of this coming out. And it's an important part to the story.
Okay.
So making that transition now, I'm going to talk about this cover slide. We all know the Eye of Providence has been co-opted. It's the Great Seal of the United States. It was not intended for nefarious use, but it got co-opted. And they loved that we saw the conspiracy in that. But what we're watching is that system. You see all the gravestones? Right? Isn't that cool?
Policy captures, NGO front groups, dark money, unaccountable entities, think tanks. Yep. And many more. Okay.
So what I chose to do when I built this slide, and I had to build it in several layers, I wanted to use a wide open eye to signify two things. Our our we're getting our symbolism back, right? That all-seeing eye. We're also in a new age of enlightenment where transparency is allowing us to check under the hood and see what's really going on. And there have been things that are being done that give us that ability. And I mentioned it to you yesterday when we were talking. One of the things I'm finding that is really unusual. You know, I've been researching for years, you know that. And I bust my butt on the research, trying to dig in, trying to find answers. We are more transparent now than we've ever been.
Yep.
I am finding more primary source information because I try to use only tier one, you know, official documents. New York Times, Washington Post, you know, throw them out the window.
Yeah.
The news has been intentionally jaded.
Yep.
But I've been just looking into tier one documents. I have found more information than I think I've ever been able to find, to be very honest. So that's a really new thing. So when I take my old research, which a lot of this is, and I try to update it with anything new that's happened since I did that research, I'm finding things I didn't find back when I did the original research.
Wow.
Which is, it's a nuance that I swear to you, it's an exciting nuance if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because it's showing that we're getting things back even though you don't actually see them.
I mean, do you ever recall a time whenever we get released footage of an attempted assassination?
No. On the day after? No.
The day after, or even the day of. Trump shared the potato. It was a potato footage, but still shared it. Did we ever see that from anybody else ever? No.
And it doesn't inhibit information we shouldn't know.
Yeah.
I think when we talk transparency, what transparency means that you don't have to know everything. You need to know enough to answer the question.
Yeah.
And there are things that are going to be kept
That's a
under
great
seal
point.
for obvious reasons, right?
Yeah.
So whatever is going on, we're getting enough information to be able to paint an accurate picture for a change, something we haven't been able to do.
Right.
Okay, so here we are. The mask has slipped. I'm telling you right now, for the first time, we're gaining visibility. And that
we truly do live in an information age.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that visibility now is being turned into a weapon of accountability against what you see on the left side of the slide. And so that's a big deal, right? We're being dragged into the light here. You know, there's no way to deny.
And what it's going to do, it's going to give everybody a frame of reference now. So it, like, God forbid, worst case scenario, so let's say somebody else came in office, you know, in the next term. Now everybody's going to be able to reference back to this time and say, well, no, the previous administration was just really transparent. And now you guys aren't at all, right?
So let me point something out to you, because one of the things that's important to note, and I lost my slide shift. I had a way to do the slides here on the main screen and I can't now, so hold on a minute. So for decades, visibility has been what we've all been crying for, right? We've all said it. Sunlight disinfects. But what I'm going to show you today is that in this era where we're at now, visibility isn't the outcome. It's the mechanism that's being used to control those shadow networks. So, and we're witnessing that. There's a fundamental flip happening right in front of us. And where they used to hide, it's being turned into a high definition lens, if you will, for the executive nerve center. Where I showed you before, we had the opposition nerve center.
Right.
Now I'm showing you the executive nerve center and that visibility, because at the same time that they're gaining insight, like things through Doge, the public is being brought along. So with the public and the executive office, we are watching their dismantling, something they don't like. And if you look at this particular slide, you're looking at the 4 nerve centers, right? The 4 nodes of control. And I will show you how that is going to be mapped, how it's being mapped, and how it's being dismantled today. So look
this
at.
is the opposition nodes, the 4 nodes of the opposition. All right.
So last week we went through the institutional nonprofit node.
Yeah, the NGOs. Okay.
Right. So the administrative state, I'm highlighting the administrative state today because it's the administrative state and the MIC together because of actions that happened just last week. The military industrial complex, which Trump just talked about in that video.
Yep.
So these two are pretty much in focus today. Next week, I'm going to go through that final node, the financial stuff. Although some of it's spilling in today, the majority of it is coming next week. Okay. So let's look at the nerve center, if you will, from the perspective of the 4 pillars, but let's break that down. Okay. This is the legacy institutional. This was what we went through last week. And we show that the narrative starts up here with these NGOs.
Okay.
They build influence bridges. Remember I showed you that?
Yeah, these are just a couple examples, right? I mean, there's so many more, especially under the LCCHR, which is, again, the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. Excuse me. Underneath it, they've got 240 plus NGOs under its umbrella, right? Like the Southern Poverty Law Center, like the ACLU, the ADL.
But then you also build bridges with people, and that's where the revolving door comes in, which is what this is signifying. You get your talent, you get them into government, they write the policy that they come out of government to advocate for through the LCCHR, and they keep going through this revolving door model. So this is the heart, and it's a plug and play, which I'm about to show you. It's a plug and play. Like I said, last week we went through this in extreme detail.
So what she's explaining essentially is that I suspect is that when it comes to, quote, draining the swamp, if you think it's easy and you think it's just, getting rid of a couple of individuals that are, congressmen and women, corrupt congressmen and women, then it's a lot more in depth than that.
Well,
right?
Yeah, it is. And it not only is it a lot more in depth, but it's designed to be that way. Complexity lends itself to opacity, right? The more layers you build, the more opaque it gets. So you needed an internal lens. I believe that's where Doge really hit the final blow. But this is, like I said, this is what we did last week. This is the financial system nerve center. And this is largely Scott Bessent. And this slide, by the way, isn't completed because I got to now put it through my edits based on some of the stuff I'm putting in today's slide. But that influence loop for the financial nerve center is it's not about what you think. It's about what can be done. The financial system itself, at the top, you got compliance, the Fed, the SEC, FINRA. You got all of those up there. They're not just regulators, but they're also gatekeepers in the old system. And they define what is risky, and they set the standards that control access to capital. So this was a big deal where you're using part of the government as a gatekeeper. You following?
Yep.
And they, of course, put it through an ideological filter. That's the bridge. It's where these think tanks then come in and they define what stability means. And they create the demand for more rules that the compliance hub will then enact, which is up here. So that consolidating all of that, of course, within the big banks. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, taking us on to the administrative state, another big area. This is the regulatory hub, if you will. This is where,
Well,
lack
which
of a better word.
they've themselves have been neutered in the last several years.
Major way, but
Chevron
there's still more to
deference,
go.
the
Right,
EPA one, right?
right.
Supreme
You
Court
got it,
rulings, I mean.
and removing some of the regulatory processes within the agencies has also neutered them. But the big one for the administrative state,
EPA.
Schedule F.
Oh, Schedule F. So Trump can fire anybody at
He's
will.
made policy-facing positions
Yeah.
within the federal government at will.
Yeah, not just Trump too, but you got Hegs. Well, actually, does Hegseth count?
Oh yeah, because it's
the
following
military?
through the Schedule F.
Yeah, okay. And for that matter, Besant. I think Besant was even posted something.
So remember, they immediately tried to fight it. And the Supreme Court has finally said they were going to let the government continue the firings while the litigation goes through the system. We're not going to get a final answer on Schedule F probably. Well, we'll get it. We should get it in June because it was just heard. So the fact that the Supreme Court allowed Trump to employ the Schedule F changes lends itself to the fact that he's likely going to succeed on this because it is a core of the executive duties. So it's probably going to go through as well. So not only do you have Chevron, where they no longer get control over what is said and how it's done, you also have the Hensley protocols that were just put in place that remove the shield contractors were using to defend the administrative state, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got obviously the Schedule F piece to this, and there's others. And like I said, remember those 5 pillars because they all come into place, and this big set here is where Trump is actually gaining back legitimacy as an elected president of the United States, and his nominated and confirmed cabinet now have authorities. So I left this for the last one because this is a big one. And the weight of this is going to come up here real soon with the Anthropic story. But this is the MIC, right? This is the nerve center of the MIC.
Military Industrial Complex.
Right. So you're using NGOs as your intellectual hub, right?
Mm-hmm.
And notice this guy always shows up. You got a legislative node where they actually embed their sycophants into the staff of Congress. So they're now a part of writing the laws that come back into the administration for the regulations, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, you got the industry core, which are the big 5, the big 5 contractors, which the Hensley protocols have just now dismantled, which we're going to go through. So this is a big deal that we just struck at the heart of the MIC with the Hensley protocols, because now everybody's scrambling. What do we do? What do we do? So, and I really wanted to go through those, and hopefully you can see, I intentionally designed them very similar because it is a plug and play pattern for all the nerve centers, and you can see that now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, different players, sometimes even the same players.
Yeah, these are their systems of control right here.
So where LCCHR operates with over 240 member organizations,
Yep.
the MIC operates with over 1,500
Holy cow.
member organizations.
About the comment I made about the swamp draining and thinking that it's going to happen overnight, guys.
No.
Holy cow. Daunting.
But before you lose heart, like I just outlined, everybody remembers the 16-year plan. Trump's first term, Biden's pause are the first 8 years, right? Trump's second term and the successive presidency will be the second part of the 8 years, which will retake our government back. So we've got about 6 years to go.
So we took their 16-year plan to destroy the country and instead flipped it to a 16-year plan to secure our country. Okay.
Right.
Wow.
And the majority of the ship turning, the majority of the plan is completed by the end of 27, fiscal year 27. So by September 30th of 27, the majority of this will be completed. Fiscal year 28, which starts October 1st of 28, right before the election, is the beginning of the rebuilding.
Are you telling me that by June or July of 2027, we're going to have an entirely new government?
Not completely new, but at least a government that can now self-correct. Yes. And we've got to rebuild. So reason why this year is a pivotal date is because a lot of the work that needs to happen to prepare for 2027 is happening right now.
This goes back to that. I got to find that. I need to go find that Monica Crowley comment where she said that Trump has put in things in place that nobody knows about.
Nobody knows about.
Hasn't been publicly discussed or aired. That the measures that have been put in place just that will ensure.
And just so you know,
future.
I've tried to document as many of them as I can, and there are a lot. To do that, I would need probably 6 weeks of this series, just this part.
Okay.
Because there's so much that is happening. What I've tried to do is highlight the big ones that actually turn the key in the lock to unlock it. And I believe I've done that. You'll have to let me know. But that's what's so big about what we're watching right now. Is there's all these keys are opening locks at the same time. So, and it doesn't mean that we're done. But you should start to see this year a noticeable difference in our lives, in our quality of life. You should start to see that this year. I'm serious about that.
Okay.
2027, you're going to see it more. By 2028, when the new administration comes in, we are going to be in a position, 2028, 29, we are going to be in a position to look back and say, wow, because it'll be a remarkable difference between where we started and where we're at. And I'm hoping I'm surviving long enough to actually be able to tell that story, because this has been an incredible story, an incredible journey so far. I want to be able to tell that part of the story. So say a prayer.
So what would you say to anyone out there espousing things like, oh, it's all about digital currency. Oh, it's all about Palantir is now fully funded. Oh, nobody.
My comment to
Get
those
ready
kinds
to
of
have your
comments-
crotch sniffed out by a robot dog for vax status as their eyeballs are scanned by drone for digital ID. What would you say to somebody like that?
You're only understanding what you want to understand.
I couldn't agree more.
There's always more to the story.
Yep.
And if you always look at things through the lens of the corrupt SOBs, you're going to find the corrupt SOB stuff.
You're going to find it everywhere you look. Yeah, that's called confirmation bias.
So, and the other part of this is to remember, it's not about getting rid of the system. It's about controlling their system. And you throw out what you don't need and you keep what you do.
Yep.
And that's what we're watching happen.
I mean, you want any indicators? Everybody's been worried about the midterms. Everybody, and rightfully so, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, as everybody starts worrying about this, we have a Supreme Court ruling that is making space for all these other states to start redistricting properly, right?
Properly.
And we're and the GOP or conservatives or Republicans are gaining a massive amount of seats. And here's another one. Of all people who are leading candidates for governor of California
Is a Republican.
It's not a lib. It's not a Gavin Newsom replacement.
They just tossed Swalwell, right?
Yes.
They just tossed his butt. Like I was saying the day that happened, you don't toss your forerunner, right? Your front runner, unless he's toxic to the party. They had nobody to replace him with.
Yeah.
The other guy running on the Dem ticket was so far behind it wasn't funny. So now the unlikely, right? He was unlikely to win. The unlikely Republican candidate is just sweeping the field. And the Democrats have nobody.
And this is the problem when you only hyper focus Candy on BitChute. This is the problem when you only hyper focus on the corruption. You have to look at everything. And here's the problem also when you just hyper focus on the corruption, you tend to develop a pessimistic outlook on the whole, on the entirety of it, of everything going on. You got to see things. You got to be as objective, emotionally free from all analysis, which is one reason why I commend Feisty for what she has done. I mean, imagine, and I totally agree with what Feisty has said time and time again about understanding the three sides of the triangle if you want a good 40,000-foot view. You can't just omit what's going on with the Vatican or the City of London or D.C. for that matter.
Right.
You know, you have to include the entirety.
And you have to start to allow yourself to see the flip side of the coin. Everybody's so hyper focused on what they did that they're not seeing what's being done about it. And when you see what's being done about it, it has to be divine, right? There has to be a divine intervention involved in this because I can't explain it otherwise.
Yeah.
So I'm going to look at this slide. This is what I call the power stack. When you got all these nodes aligned, you get such a control system that execution through the military is easier. And I'm going to show that. I'm going to actually tell the COVID story today and what warp speed was really about.
Yeah, because a lot of us have suspected that COVID was about a whole lot more, and warp speed for that matter.
And warp speed actually was the original, the start of breaking the chains, and I'll show that today. So it starts at the top with the narrative. Everything starts with the narrative, right? And think tanks, NGOs, they all shape what the public believes is acceptable, right? And then that becomes part of policy. So an example of that was in 2017 with the statues being removed, and again in 2020 when they started doing it again, states started removing these statues, right? Because it became a part of public policy based on what the NGOs and the information network was pushing. So they created an urgency that the states reacted to. So that narrative, once it becomes a part of a policy that's being formed, then the administrative state then takes those ideas and hard rules them into the programs that they develop. So if the narrative says we need a certain regulation, the policy node makes it real. And then once you get that policy node making it real, then you get money appropriated to it. Right? So then you get all of this stuff with the legal part of it, you get the protection you need to keep that in place, right? That's their legal defense system is to co-opt the legal system. And then, of course, you get the execution where the military and the intelligence apparatus enforces all of those priorities.
So it's more than just corruption. This is also, let's not forget, Soros is new enough to install district attorneys all over the country, to install secretaries of state all over the country.
Right. To keep the system in place.
Right. And to thwart our legal system.
Right.
Yep.
And then, sadly, it's been playing out on the battlefield.
And you miss all this when you hyper focus on. I'm not saying don't focus. Obviously
you got to take it in context with everything else.
That's right.
You have to,
or you're going to miss it.
You're not only going to miss it, but you're going to have a distorted understanding of it, of what you see unfolding.
And then worse than even that, you're going to espouse this. You're going to repeat this to those in your sphere, and you're going to affect others, people that you care about and love, and you're going to give them a pessimistic outlook. And is that really what you want to be remembered for? If so, then this might not be the show for it.
So if you take what they've built and you flip it on his ear, the executive, Trump, can then use it to reverse them. You use their tools your way. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what Trump is doing right now. And I defy you not to see that in some of the things going on. You've seen every bit of this in play. and he's a master. He understands them and their system, and he is very effectively using their system his way, which has got them so frustrated, by the way, because they're being pushed into a corner because their narratives are boomeranging because of the way he's using their system his way. It's cool to watch. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So let's take this into the common architecture. One of the problems, and this is why Trump has been able to exploit it, one of the problems that you have that has taken us decades to unravel all of this is the fact that the more they layered it, the more opaque it became, the more complex, the more opacity, right? So because it was so opaque, a lot of what they were doing was hidden below the surface, and we could take care of the pieces that popped out and we saw, but it didn't do anything to deal with the underlying structure. So whether it was influence, whether it was finance, they all shared a common architecture, which is why I showed you the 4 notes. And that opacity is not an accident. It was designed. It was fundamental to the system. For the nerve center, the opposition nerve center to work, it needed the opacity and it needed a complicated system for where it was hard to look through. But something happened on the way to this era that we're in. Technology caught up. And that's the biggest reason, because now things are changing at the speed of the press the enter on your keyboard. Where it would take years before, I showed that in the shadow banking series, where the rules to fix a problem were often decade later, right? So, for example, the LIBOR scandal was exposed in 2012. It was 2023 before that shift to SOFR actually completed because of the issues that we're facing. So that the opacity chain is the fragmentation that leads to disconnection, right? It becomes the delays, all of that, which result in the lack of visibility. And then you take that architecture and you make it one piece of control. So you got the policy pipelines, policy, personnel, and regulatory control, this influence system, coupled with the financial system of the shell, offshore, and layered transactions. You've now got a system that is it's a behemoth, right? It's a leviathan that's not just domestic, but it's also foreign. And I'll show that with the COVID story. Okay. So we've had warnings about this. We've had lots of warnings from Eisenhower, 1961, where he said that we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence. What is he talking about? Obviously, the influence node, right? He was also talking about the MIC, where you had 2 nodes colluding, right? So he wasn't just talking about guns either. He was talking about that concentration of influence that bypassed any kind of democratic oversight. Okay. Woodrow Wilson and JFK both had similar warnings where where Kennedy said that secrecy is repugnant. He recognized that these opaque systems influence and encourage and actually embolden secrecy chains, right? So now you've got that part of it. And then, of course, before that, well before that, Woodrow Wilson, not my favorite president, actually also talked about that there was a power that was organized, subtle, and watchful. He talks about this way back in during his presidency, 40 years before Kennedy comes in. So this isn't a new thing. None of this is a new thing, and it's not just a new world order thing. It's control. And people are, by definition, always looking for a way to get around the system to gain the most out of the system for personal use, right? So we're showing a system that is a lot bigger than what people think, but it includes a lot more than people think. So at that level, the ones I just showed you, that's a system level risk. Let's look at the operational stuff. Who can forget Reagan? Government is not the solution, it's the problem, right? Everybody knows that, went off the top of their head. And the worst, what is it? The most fearful words out of government is, I am the government, I'm here to help you.
I'm here to help, yeah.
All right. So we've got Reagan speaking in, but then Go look at Rumsfeld's September 10th, 2001 speech. What did he do there? He declared a war on the bureaucracy. And I've been trying to get people to actually listen to that speech because that video we opened this show with is an answer to that. Obviously, there needed to be something else more than what we had in 2001 to deal with this. And I encourage people, please, play them back to back. They're in my Coggon channel, by the way, Sean. Both of them back to back. Because it is, he declared a war on bureaucracy. Less than 24 hours later, we have 9/11. And it wasn't even that. 16 hours later. So we have this situation with Obama, too, where he said the government needs to work smarter. It doesn't need to get bigger. Ironically, under his administration, the government more than doubled.
Under whose?
Obama's administration.
Yeah.
Government more than doubled.
Wow.
So, yeah,
it was
huge.
already big before that, too.
Yeah. We watched it here in D.C. in a real way.
Wow.
It's huge.
And since then, it's actually under Biden.
Mm-hmm. Under Trump,
half,
he took,
didn't it?
Not in half, but almost. Because under Trump, there were things put in place that Biden didn't undo. So it started scaling back the size of government. The biggest decrease in government happened this year with the RIFs.
The what?
The RIFs, the reduction in force.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
stay tuned, everybody. There's a whole lot more that she's gonna get into, and I can't wait till she gets into the anthropic stuff, too.
Yeah, it's coming.
Oh boy.
So the reason why I wanted to put these historical slides in here is because I wanted to show you that over the last century, our federal government, the government you elect, has been effectively taken hostage. And the fight we're in right now is to regain that sovereignty. So we're at a moment of choice, right? This is where the time for warning is over. And
you mean kind of like
video,
Trump is has a war of choice? You mean like that?
Yes. So I purposefully used a certain word that I introduced to everybody's
bifurcation
vernacular. I purposely used that word in there.
Which means
because we were at a point where we had a choice to make, which is the genesis of that 2016 speech we started with.
It's essentially like another way to look at bifurcation is a precipice, maybe, right? Like you don't have a choice; you have to go one direction or
you have
other.
to make a decision between two destinations,
There's
and we either continue down the path we were to absolute destruction, or we make a hard choice, and it was a hard choice to choose a different path that began another 16-year journey.
Yeah, and there's many counter attacks that you're going to receive in the process too.
Right, and we've been victims of this war.
Yeah.
So, in order to gain any sense of equilibrium, we actually had no choice. Because it was obvious that we were losing in a big way our quality of life, our dollars, everything was disappearing, right? And we could no longer ignore the fact that we had a government that was aligned against the people of its own country. Mm-hmm. So now we go into the reconstruction because it's not just about an executive reset now. We're looking at a system that's based on transparency, but it's adding that element of accountability back into the picture that had been very carefully smoothed out for the players in the old system. So look at the tools. We've got FinCEN, you got the Treasury, you got FATF, right? Which is a foreign group. You're enforcing some real-time visibility and identity attribution into the system. And this is mostly financial, what I just told you about, but you always follow the money, because when you follow the money, you find all the players, you find all the operations, right? So for the first time now, we can actually see networks and intervene directly. Now, how can I prove that? How many times do we have to hear Scott Bessent say, we're watching billions leave Iran, or watch where UAE arrests dozens of the Shamkhani network's money changers in UAE or in Dubai. So if you sit and think about it, you're watching this happen in real time. So that's why the system now is finally breakable. We've done enough pre-work that we not only are breaking the system, but we're breaking it in such a way that the control is being restored into the executive office and it can't grow back. And part of that, by the way, is blockchain.
Do we have any other indicators of this?
Of the system being broken?
Yeah. Well, like, what are some good indicators?
Well, I just told you about the Shamkhani network and the billions leaving.
The Shamkhani
Iran.
network is essentially Iran.
Yeah,
right?
it's their current government. They're holding the Iranian government hostage because they're about 50% of the Iranian economy. They represent that, and it's a shadow network.
That's City of London.
Well, eventually, yeah, it's a triad there, right? You've got the Brussels power,
Yep.
City of London financial plumbing, and the Shamkhani network moving illicit money. You're watching that squeeze happen.
So
for that whole
would we
network.
say like the City of London be the brains, and then Brussels
No.
would be the money?
Brussels is the brains.
And
Brussels
City of
is the
London
brains.
money.
City of London is the financial plumbing.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah,
making
well,
sense?
if you question that, guys, just ask yourselves, okay, so what does England produce of value that props its government up, that props its
Yeah, I can tell you right now. I know. Ask me.
Shadow banking, period.
Well, the whole idea that they convert petrodollars into euros,
Yeah.
they then take a cut off that, right? So they are the center of this system they looked the other way as these networks used their shadow bank system.
So they exploit the fractions in the fractional reserve aspect of it?
Yes.
That's how they make their and interest and all that. Okay.
So, but what we're getting right now is visibility in real time. And that visibility is being exercised across all the nodes. And I'll show you this because now we're getting to a point where we can actually start to see a resolution to everything we've been watching. And I wanted to go through the fact that we're in a place where the war is on. Okay, so you got the constraint war. Got this old system, the old guard, fighting against the new system, the new guard. The choke points in all these slides I'm about to do are in the center. Okay, so what you're looking at here is this is the battlefield that Trump is talking about every single day. Besant talks about, Hegseth talks about, all the NGOs are trying to say, yeah, but the administration, King. This is the actual battlefield that we're facing right now. The more they get squeezed, the choke points that are being used, don't just look at it as a choke point that's attacking them, but they're choke points because they're establishing a new order. So the civil service law, right? Schedule F, the regulatory proceduralism, how many regulations have been going away? Scott Besant's even talking about some of those where they're easing restrictions on the local banks, right? Your
You're easing them?
region on they're easing because what they did to lock out Main Street is they overburdened regional banks with compliance requirements.
Right.
And so lending on Main Street
create a
dried up almost
monopoly.
immediately. Well, lending ended too.
Monopoly. What?
Lending ended.
Oh, yeah.
The regional banks used to be, they're the ones that injected liquidity into Main Street, not Citibank.
Remember, everybody, when you used to put money in a savings account and that used to gain at least some interest?
Thank you, Dodd-Frank. That went away.
Did you see Barney Frank on with Jake Tapeworm yesterday?
No.
Yeah.
No, I've been a little
He
buried.
called out the left big time last night.
Good.
Yeah, and he entered hospice, and he says the Democrat Party is entering hospice too.
Well, I agree with him,
Yeah.
to be very honest.
Barney Frank of all people.
Right. So what I'm showing you here, this is the administrative state, and the union contracts is one. I didn't get to detail it in this deck. It's going to have to wait. But when Trump came back into office, because of remember during COVID, federal workforce was allowed to work from home,
Yeah.
which is illegal, by the way. It was never legal to do that. So one of the first orders that came out of the executive office was that all labor contracts had to be reviewed to see if the provision to work from home was in the contract. Why? Because it would void, because it's against federal law. It would have voided the contract.
Wow.
So I didn't get a chance because this deck is already so long to detail that. I will promise to add it to next week.
Feisty. You think that was a end
That
around?
was a shot over the bow saying, I'm coming after your fucking ass.
Wow. Feisty. Damn.
Yeah.
Warp speed. So that's included in the warp speed.
Well, no, I actually had to remove this piece and put it into next week because it has a financial component to it, but and I will show that. But the new innovations are being put in place while they choke the other side. So they're using these choke points,
which is
and while
union
they're
contracts, regulatory proceduralism, and
civil service law. They're using these to choke this side, and then they're also squeezing. Yes, these are new.
Okay. Wow.
So we're squeezing this choke point. It's creating a choke point that's giving us the space to implement the innovations that are being used to keep them out. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
So you can see that now, right? Yeah. Let's look at the institutional system. You notice the choke points again. So this is going throughout all the nodes. This is the institutional system. These are the what I went over last week with the LCCHR.
See, when I hear institutional,
that's influence.
I think of everything that we've gone into so far.
Institutional.
As institutions,
well, no, this one is specifically the universities, the NGOs.
NGOs, right?
Right. This is all of that.
Can't you put the administrative side into that?
No, the administrative state is a different animal. That's when these other nodes embed themselves inside the administrative state, like as a staffer in Congress.
Oh, okay. Lobbyists.
So there's two different pieces. You got to break them out.
Okay.
Okay.
I wanted to identify that just for anyone out there that might get confused with, because I almost see all of them as institutions, NGOs.
Well, they are an institution of their own, but I didn't know what else to call that. Yeah. So
okay.
So forgive me.
No, it's fine.
I'm just bad language there, but I see the institutional piece as a huge, because it's the most public facing of all the three. Right? When you got NGOs setting a narrative. So the choke points, tax exempt status. Remember,
Holy
2
cow.
weeks ago,
Hold on
Scott Bessent just announced a change in the 990. Go ahead.
I got a little breaking news.
A person was shot at the monument.
Yeah, things are popping off right now. The Secret Service confirms a man was shot by law enforcement near the White House, and then shout out to Spin City, who I think we're going to be taking on here at America Rising at least once a week, but says, breaking news, person was just shot at the Washington Monument.
Do you want me to stop sharing so you can show something?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you for that.
This is too important.
Yeah, so Chris Doom told us...
This is the reason why all of this is happening.
That's why this is going on. You can't dismiss it anymore.
Dismiss at your own will.
Yeah, right. So if you recall 2 weeks ago, Scott Bessent announced that he's changing the 990 form. That's the form. The 990 form is the form that NGOs submit showing all their donors. And over the decades, they eroded the 990 reporting so that they could shield and hide their donors. He's announced that that's changing. That's coming
huge.
That is huge, and I've got that in next week's deck.
Wow.
The academic credentials Trump has been taking on the universities for DEI.
But nothing's happening, guys. Nothing's happening,
of course
okay?
Not. No.
Pay no mind. Nothing's happening.
Right.
Trump's just sold out to the Zionist Israel, everybody.
Right.
Bullshit.
So then you got the narrative filtering. We're going after, in fact, another lawsuit was announced today by the Trump brothers, Eric and Trump Jr. They're going after influencers who've been lying, and they're filing lawsuits in court over defamation.
Really? Yes.
So you're getting the narrative filtering is happening on two sides, right?
This was inevitable.
It is inevitable. You've seen Trump do it. You've seen Melania do it. You've seen others
Turning
do
Point
it.
USA just did it.
Right. They're going after that. But there's also an administrative way of doing it. Open up any of these pressers, and what do they go through? The lies the media is telling. So you're now starting to see that filter be kind of broken up a little bit. And then, of course, the media distribution. This is where independent media is important. And I believe why we should be very careful, because it's a huge responsibility to be honest, intellectually honest, and as accurate as possible. I realize we're dealing with open source information, but when you add your nuance to it because it sounds good or feels good, as something you want to be real, doesn't make the news real. And so that's important because we're watching MS Now go down, right? We're watching legacy media take a haircut in favor of independent reporting. And just so you know, it doesn't mean you have to be right 100% of the time, but you have to be intellectually honest.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
said.
and then the donor networks are being challenged right
Well,
now.
they shouldn't be entertaining
That's the Act
between
Blue.
right or wrong. They should just be reporting.
Right.
Yeah.
First of all, you don't need your news to tell you how to think.
Right.
Tell you what's going on,
Right.
but not how to think.
Well said.
So then the final one is the donor networks. That's the Act Blue investigations that are going on at both the state and federal level. So, and if you take the tax exempt status, like the investigations that are going on with Planned Parenthood and fraud and all the fraud investigations, and add that to the donor networks, that's a huge stake at the heart of a shadow network. Just those two things alone, and that's the institutional piece. Looking at the financial system, you got payment rails. When you're talking about payment rails, you're talking about how money gets shut out of the system. We're using DEI and ideological filters to determine who got funded. And you're seeing now where, remember when Trump was debanked, we've also seen, because debanking's been happening now for over a decade, but it didn't wake a lot of people up until Trump got debanked during the Biden pause, right? So here we are watching those payment rails be corrected because that's an illegal behavior, and that there's an actual executive order on that. The ESG mandates, gone. And they're actually prosecuting on those.
What's an ESG mandate?
The environment, social governance, ESG, right? All of the feel good pieces, right? So the debanking I mentioned, the clearing and settlement, which is being put in place right now, where we're upgrading the SWIFT network with a blockchain speed so that you make the system fast enough that manipulation can't happen, and it's on an immutable blockchain. So you also, if somebody tries, you got them square to none. So that's happening now. And then of course you got data and surveillance. FISA was just authorized again for another year. I do think there will be some big changes next year, but FISA was just authorized against. But this goes deeper because we're monitoring and we're scoring and the control of every transaction in the financial system. So that's where the data surveillance piece is a bit different. These two last pieces are the reason for the blockchain. And no, it's not a CBDC, folks. It's not.
So for anyone new or that might catch this later, that's just now starting to become privy to the state of the country. If you don't know what FISA is, it's a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978. It's a federal law that establishes procedures for the surveillance and the collection of foreign intelligence on
terrorist activity
on U.S. soil. Right?
No, it's well, it could end up to be that, but it was always intended to look for foreign terrorism. So here's where the rubber gets sticky on the road. Because increasingly over the last 12 years, that terrorism was homegrown. CARE and groups like that, the queer Marxists, right? Antifa,
DSA.
cartel activity. So you got terrorism that is homegrown. It's on our soil.
Antifa,
So
Democratic Socialists of America.
right. So the surveillance started to include for domestic activity more and more. And that's where you get into that ideological battle that you're not supposed to be surveilling me. And that's, I understand that battle. And I think I could debate both sides of it, pro and con. But the fact of the matter is, there was terrorism being developed in our own country. It was a part of the final battle to take down this country, was to create a set of conditions that made you too afraid to stand up against your government. So we've got to remember that, and I think that's important. Let's go through the MIC, the final time here. So you got budget and appropriations. That's being played out right now, and I'll show you that here in a big way, because when you're looking at the budget and appropriations, you can't mistake. Once you understand what you're looking at, you have to giggle at some of the hearings, like the two last week with Hegseth and General Kane. The NDAA legislative process right now is playing out as we speak.
Kane looks so awkward.
Who?
Kane looked very awkward during that.
Well, because the
He's
generals
not political.
They're not political.
Yeah.
The generals, the working generals, are not political body.
And they try to make it political.
He's thrown into a political role as the head of the Joint Chiefs. So, I mean, he doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
So it is an uncomfortable thing. He's been a battlefield commander for how long?
Yeah.
And now he's the head of Joint Chiefs, which is a political body. So, and you can see the difference, which I'd rather an uncomfortable Kane than a very relaxed Milley, wouldn't you?
That's a great point. Actually, I didn't think about it that way. Great point.
Yeah, I would much rather an uncomfortable Kane, because if I know he's uncomfortable, then I know he's not doing it for personal gain.
And Bobby just said, asked a great question. How many of the huge donors do you think are going to just stop now that they will be considered public information?
It's not
thanks
just
to what
these
Besant
huge...
just is implementing.
Yeah, it's
here.
not just, remember, that's where the Act Blue investigations come in. It's not just the huge donors. Remember, we had straw donors, remember? Where they took these large donations and broke them out.
Yeah.
And old ladies who can't afford $5 were given $5,000. So you've got that piece to it, which has got to be broken out. But you also got the foreign component, which on Act Blue's site, they give you instructions on how to bypass the address if you're a foreign person. I showed it to you. I've shown you
Incredible.
that. It's still on their website. So, we're not just talking about these billionaires donating money. We're talking about the origin of money. So there's a lot more to it. And the 990 changes are a big way of fixing that. There's still going to need to be some legislative activity and accountability. I think the Act Blue situation is a big one. So there's that. Procurement process. Pete Hegseth is really kicking ass with that one.
He really is. My gosh.
Yeah, he
this
really
Anthropic thing, you guys are going to realize.
It's big.
You're going to realize just how much Pete Hegseth, the role he's played. And didn't I just hear the other day that he had thwarted a color revolution that was being planned within the Pentagon?
Well, I will show you with the Anthropic story how he was able to thwart it. Okay?
Yep.
And you're going to laugh because everybody think Doge is dead.
Are we going to get into the Iran thing too?
No, I don't have time today to get into all of that.
Okay.
I can get in. Oh, you're talking about the school. Yes.
School.
So let me talk about the battle for power. Let's start with that because we're talking about a reset that's happening. You've got an activity going on in Congress that is protecting the old guard, right? And this particular Tom Tillis is the archetype, if you will, that is protecting the old guard.
Yep.
And the mask is slipping. This is a tweet
Tom
from
Tillis,
Ed Martin.
really?
Yes, Tom Tillis. This is a tweet from Ed Martin, and it's from an article in Politico. He copied and pasted it, and he added it to the bottom of his tweet, okay? Took a screenshot. So Tom Tillis, Ed Martin deleted this post, by the way.
Did he really?
Yes, he then deleted the post.
Is that because Tom Tillis capitulated?
No.
Okay.
It's because the message was received.
All right. Wow.
Okay. So he says, "Hey, Senator Tom Tillis, are you okay? Having memory issues for retirement? You called me on my cell phone recently to block a pardon of one of your constituents, remember? Now, the pardon issue isn't the issue, okay? And I didn't, I have it. I don't have time to bring up the article because it's a neat story. But what this is about is in the article, there's a message from Tom Tillis that says, by the way, I don't think Martin is employed by the DOJ anymore either, is he? But in fact, he is. And Tom Tillis knows he is. So what is this going after? This is the executive reset in action. Remember, Tom Tillis is the one that blocked Ed Martin from becoming a U.S. attorney. Tom Tillis is the one blocking the Clarity Act. Tom Tillis is blocking the Save America Act. He's
So
one
it's
of
not
those.
John Thune?
No. I've been trying to explain that to people for a while. John Thune will bring a vote to the floor when he's got the votes to pass it. You got an old guard in there that's doing this.
Okay.
So here you have a classic battle playing out right in front of you, right? This is the battle for power, the old, the new. So let's take this system war one step further before I get into the big thing. Because now that you can see the mask is slipping, let's talk about the two paradigms, right? And this is where I'm going to get into Anthropic. We are in a war, right? We got two fundamentally different paradigms here. The old one is centralized, locked, and fragmented, right? This is over here. And the new one, and obviously they operate on secrecy, but the new one is distributed. That distributed intellect, that distributed sovereign power, it's looking for and seeking out absolute freedom for our country, to regain the country's sovereignty. The executive over tradition over the last 100 years has been locked out of the system. So what you have, oh my gosh, Sober Lady, thank you, $50.
$50 Rumble Rant from Sober Lady says, thanks so much for all your time, energy, and hard work. You guys are amazing together. Love you. We love you too, Sober Lady. Thank you.
you
God
so
bless
much.
you.
So here we're looking for sovereignty. We want truth. We want, intellectually honest discussion would be nice for a change, right? And because you've got an executive that's been locked out of the system, he's had to claw back the ability to get the keys to the locks. And that's what we're watching. Keep in mind that this doesn't happen unless they found a way to siphon our capital out of it, right? They had to have money to do this. They used your taxpayer dollars, which I will show. So information is also a form of capital if you think about it.
Yep.
Because if you can weaponize information, you can make money off of it. It becomes policy, right? Policy gets,
It's like blackmail's a currency.
well, blackmail is what's going on with that. So let's talk about the sovereignty is happening. We're getting into this. You like my use of the lion, by the way? And the eagle, but I liked the lion. Let's talk about something that just happened last week. Carly put out a video where she said, excuse me, my cat's up here and I gotta hide my goldfish. Sorry. That was my lunch. She poured out a video of this guy. This guy's Patrick Nevins. They were doing the NDAA hearings last week in the House. He's a staffer on Homeland Security. And she put out a video and she said, when you got nothing else, pull Ukraine out of your ass. And she put up a Ukraine piece. And I get where she was going. I understand. But when you look into this, it's about a lot bigger. It's a lot more going on. When you add Anthropic to the story, the scope of this is even bigger. Patrick Nevins is the architect of the fiscal year 27 NDAA. This says 26 because it includes actions that were required in the fiscal year 26 NDAA. The actual 27 NDAA is the objective, which comes out hopefully by September, which is usually late. But he's actually building in some firewalls that the MIC has been holding, right? He's building in some guardrails. He's also looking at what they
And
call,
by the way, an NDAA for everyone out there, sorry, Feisty, is a National Defense Authorization Act.
right,
It essentially lays out the
the
national
priorities
defense
and the funding
for the administration.
for the administration,
Yeah.
DOJ, DOD, DOW now, so and all of their services. So one of the things that comes out of this is he's doing, and this is where Ukraine comes in. He's doing a direct to supplier piece in the NDAA, where the field commanders can go directly to the supplier.
Taking
And
out
what
the
they know,
middleman.
they're getting rid of the middleman. What they know is down here in the bottom is that roughly 70% of all appropriated dollars, which is where Ukraine comes in, never makes it to the battlefield. And so
So
using
it's
the
being
Ukraine,
fleeced. So all that
it's-
money's
we're-
being fleeced.
and it's going into the big five, right? The defense contractors.
Yeah.
So it never makes it there. So we got Pearl, we got the Speed Act, we got a few things going down, but the truth of the matter is what he's highlighting is the prime monopoly piece of everything, right? You're looking at the battle for defense, this extreme control piece that they're using, and the hostage piece of it is important because the big five captured the majority of all the funding and then shielded their supply chains from oversight. So they're supplying themselves. And so it's a recycling money. You see it, right? Obviously, that creates a delay. How many times do you hear Trump talk about major contracts where they never produced? Extreme delay, which creates operational risk, right? And so this brings about the anthropic dichotomy that we're about to go into, but it's showing that conflict, right? The safety and control versus sovereignty and command. So the legislative pincer, if you will, you've seen that word before. That's where you put the pressure, you squeeze, right? He's the architect, like I said, of the NDAA. He is pretty much our guy on the inside. And he's embedding language into the document that allows DOW, Department of War, to buy directly from Agile Tier 2 and 3 suppliers. And that is something that's very new, and it's breaking the monopoly lock of the big five.
Wow.
The heart of the MIC. Okay? So they are performing, what he's doing is, there's no other word for it, it's a strategic bypass. And he can then, what that does is it allows Hegseth, or the Secretary of the War, it allows him to filter for suppliers. And he gets to choose who he gets to use. And he can go with direct compliance, he can blacklist, whatever, but he gets to choose the suppliers. It's not filtered through the monopoly, which is a big deal. So why is Ukraine mentioned? Because it's actually a stress test. In order to dissolve these monopolies, you have to frame that factory of reinvestment as a Ukraine aid. Remember, that's how that 70% never made it to the battlefield. And then the administration would move billions into these non-prime vendors.
There's laundering.
And they would effectively, build their own supply chains that were effectively laundering all those funds.
Wow.
So that infrastructure now is being dismantled. That's happening in real time. This is right now.
So Ukraine's being used at this point?
Ukraine is being used to fix the problem
Wow.
the MIC created.
So anybody wondering why? So, oh man, does that mean Russia's playing a role in this as well?
No, you can't say that out loud. That's not allowed. What did he say? So I wanted to point something out. I could not get AI to create this slide.
Which
at all.
AI?
ChatGPT.
Yeah.
So I crafted a fairly generic slide.
Especially if you're getting anything prior to 2024, right?
Well, they stopped populating the AI systems in August of 25.
That's crazy. 25. I thought it was
So
24.
I'm going to show you That was the original slide. I needed an edit on the slide. When it got done with the edit I asked for, which was just a word choice, it sent me that. You see the battlefield?
The anthropic dichotomy. Safety and safety, meaning control, right? So a lot of times, double speak, okay?
Right.
If
and I'll go through that.
There's nothing anthropic about anthropic. It's
Anthropic,
misanthropic, actually. Right. Open AI is actually closed AI.
Right.
It's just all of them. They actually mean the opposite of what their title is. It's incredible.
This is important because it was a breakthrough for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the original picture I wanted, but they flat out refused to do it. And then when I went in, I wanted to change that word to pincer because it was something people hopefully are familiar with.
No.
It changed the word.
Nobody knows what a pincer is.
We used it in the shadow banking series.
Okay.
It's that where you're squeezing, right? So I wanted to use that word because it's bringing in the language. And when it returned that fix, it returned it with that picture that I wanted, but it refused to use. So I'm just pointing out AI is capitulating.
Till you beat it over the head with,
well, I have been.
Yeah.
So taking this to the next level, I got to talk about the COVID story, okay? Because a lot of people don't fully understand. And most of this research was in my 2020 5-part series on COVID. So what I did was I pulled pieces of it so that I could explain the story because it plays into what we're watching unfold today, okay? So, and I'm going to show you, there's a something behind there that I need to show you that I got to read. I got to bring that forward. Cancel. I don't want to lose that. So in 2014, there was a moratorium put on gain of function. That date of the moratorium was a White House joint, it was a joint White House, not Obama, but the science office, White House NIH joint memo that put a pause on gain of function research. But the very same day, this was put out.
Yeah, they requested it.
Yes, and you're going to see why in a second. That moratorium, that pause, really wasn't a pause. The very same day, Francis Collins comes out and says that they're going to no longer fund gain of function on influenza, MERS, and SARS viruses. But what they did do is they started what they called a deliberative process. And it really was the workaround. Gain of function didn't end. So in order to bypass oversight, a cat, please, they created this operational handoff, right? So that piece that you're looking at is the whole idea of how we ended up in 2020. This started in 2014. I'm going to show you something in a minute that you're going to sit there and go, oh, I get it. I hope. So that deliberative process moved from any form of external restrictions to an internal governance mode, and it created what they call the P3CO framework, which was a risk-benefit evaluation framework. And what it actually did is it locked out some innovators, but it required that every project go through this lens. So it sounded good, but it was being controlled by the same actors that wanted the research to continue, both in NIAID and NIH. And that pause then became the process where the rules were written by the very system itself, right? Let me show you. I'm going to bring this to the front. Wait a minute. I can't seem to bring it to the front.
Shout out to Mitch. Thank you so much, brother, for the pair of banger shades, and good to see you. I just saw about an hour ago that you hit me up. I'll have to hit you up after a little bit after the show, bro. Thank you for the shades again, and shout out to Curious Cat for the cookie, Ohio Kimmy with the cookie as well, and thank you to Dylan1954 for the can.
You're not gonna believe what I did.
What's up?
I got too many things up.
Okay.
I locked my computer up.
Do you want me to pull it up?
No, I am figuring it out as I go. Give me a second.
You don't want me to pull up?
No, because you don't have the whole slide that I need. Yeah, I've locked my computer.
Didn't you send them to me? Aren't they in the
Yeah, but
Diggs
you
folder?
don't have the underlying slide. You've got the hard. You got the hard slide, the PDF. So I'm wait a minute.
Put it in the Diggs folder. I'll grab it real quick.
I can't. It won't let me upload the PPT because it's too big. Hopefully this will fix it. Hopefully.
So, the operational handoff.
Right.
What are we? So from 2014 to 2017 is the time period you're talking about. From funding pause to self-government. What are you talking? What is this about? What is this? What are you
what they
encapsulating
did, and I can't bring it up. I'll read it. Let me read it. There's the deliberative process. It's a 1,000-page document that was released, where all these stakeholders added their 2 cents, if you will. There's an individual in there named no, she's not a doctor. Her name is Elizabeth Hart. She made a comment about this whole process, and she said, can it be argued, and this is from...
What whole process?
Hold on a second, I'll get there. The deliberative process was a workaround. It wasn't designed to discuss the cost benefits and the reality benefits of gain of function. It was an actual workaround.
Which we all kind of knew and suspected anyways, right? They needed...
Yes.
So
I can't.
So what you're saying? No, it's fine. It's fine. What you're suggesting is that COVID was used for multiple purposes.
Yes.
Wasn't it? Well, we can think that it was strictly for depopulation agenda alone.
Right.
No.
Right.
What you're saying is no. It was for depopulation as well as maybe. Shift of wealth, right?
I'm gonna stop sharing for a second while I fix my problem. I know what to do now.
A transfer of wealth, right?
Share in a second. Yeah, it literally. It didn't just transfer wealth; it offshored the risk. This is where, and everybody knows Wuhan, but it's actually 5 different labs that were used.
Okay.
Okay.
So why are we bringing COVID into the conversation?
Because
right
the map they developed is a plug and play itself, and it feeds in the map they developed, the influence network they developed to offshore risk.
Okay.
That is now a plug and play. And
why would they need to offshore the risk?
Wait, hold on a second. That's what Anthropic is now a part of. It's a big part of the Anthropic story.
Okay, that's what I wanted you to get at.
Yes.
Right there.
It's the reason why I have to go through this is because of it's pivotal actually to the Anthropic story.
I know it is. I just leave it up to me to bring it back so everybody in the chat is
and I would have been able to do that better had my screen not locked.
It's fine. It's fine.
And I apologize for that because I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to have to do a hard reset on it. I'm going to have to. I'll be right there. Just give me a second as I go through.
Yeah, take your time. I've
got to reset my PowerPoint.
Anthropic. So Anthropic is the center of all of this, and we've been right.
Well, it's now the center, the new center. Okay, it is now the new center,
and Hegseth is involved in big time.
And Hegseth he's not just involved.
Yeah,
he is. He's basically an architect of what's going on. He and Trump are actually creating the crises that Anthropic's going through. So let me show you.
What?
Yeah. Okay. Do you see?
I just see your window screen.
I'm bringing up. You should be able to see the slides, right?
An open letter to the NSABB. That?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So what I want to show you, I'm going to read this before I go through the rest of the slide because I think it's important. I accidentally did that. What happened in 2012, and that's where this story actually begins, or 2014 rather, is the actual discussion about gain of function research started in 2012. You see the date?
Yep.
And it was because there was a virus that leaked from a lab, and there was this huge national discussion going on about it.
Like a legit leak?
A legit leak.
Okay.
It happened at the CDC. Can it be argued that development of a lethal flu virus is justified for prophylactic, protective, or other peaceful purposes? I suggest this is highly questionable. For instance, Thomas V. Inglesby, Anita Chiaro, and D.A. Henderson say, we are not opposed to research in high containment labs using dangerous pathogens, including H5N1, which is the pathogen that leaked. Over the past decade, the Center for Biosecurity has publicly argued for the importance of such research to develop diagnostic medicines and vaccines for the most threatening infectious diseases. But research and development for these purposes does not require engineering lethal viruses to make them more transmissible between humans. That was in 2012. Okay, so that said, let me show you the rest of this slide, because in 2014, the decision then was to put a moratorium on gain of function, which was already happening, by the way. And that gain of function was a workaround because they went what they call into the deliberative process. Okay? The deliberative process required that all these programs go through a lens for public health and necessity, in line with Fauci's memo that they gave themselves an off-ramp, if you will, by allowing themselves to continue gain of function if it could be proven that it was vital for public health. And that's where the funding was supposed to not, they were not supposed to fund, became the purpose of funding. And so in the same Elizabeth Hart that I just read, writes in the deliberative process that Francis S. Collins, this is, we all know who Francis Collins is, right? I don't have to remind everybody. He was pivotal to the COVID story, remember?
Yeah.
Francis S. Collins, director of the National Institutes of Health, notes that public involvement in this deliberative process is key. And the process is thus designed to be transparent, accessible, and open to input from all sources. Dr. Collins encourages us to, quote, follow these deliberations closely. She adds, I hope that Dr. Collins is paying more than lip service to the notion that public involvement in this deliberative process is key. Sponsoring of potentially dangerous gain-of-function research and mishandling of pathogens are matters of serious concern for global citizens. Discussions on these matters should not be restricted to scientists and bureaucrats with possible conflicts of interest.
Yeah, likely.
Okay, so remember there were patents flying all over the place.
Okay.
And the patent holders were receiving royalties for the research done under their patent.
Okay.
And many of those patent holders were the very scientists that started the deliberative process. So there's a conflict of interest. So nevertheless, they came out with the P3CO framework, and there's the notice that did it. That framework actually identified a pathogen that is, quote, highly transmissible, capable of wide and uncontrollable spread, likely highly virulent.
Okay.
COVID, right?
Yep.
Okay. So the framework was designed to prevent this. So what did they do? This is where this comes in. You've now got a network, a global health network that can be leveraged to use the capital that they can extract, the siphon, and spread that risk across the globe to hide yourself from accountability within this country.
Oh my goodness.
So there's the global network, right? This is the infrastructure layer. You've got your 6 key areas here. DITRA, notice DITRA. This is Walter Reed military. So you got the military is now suddenly a part of this influence layer.
Where's Johns Hopkins in this?
These are if you look at, you've got, where is it? Right here, the international partner institutions, universities, NGOs, research centers. Okay, I can't put them all on there. This is a truncated. Yeah. So what they did is they expanded this infrastructure layer by using this system. Okay, now this is the system they built to expand the infrastructure to offshore risk. Let me take you through this painful slide. I ended up having to build this one myself.
I need a better summary.
I'm going through it. You need a better summary because I haven't started to explain it.
No.
Okay. This deliberative process.
What do you mean by deliberative process?
That's what they called it.
Okay, put that aside. What is it?
P3CO. It was the process for identifying the constraints of gain of function research. It was what they put in place to prevent what happened in COVID.
It's an instruction manual.
Essentially,
okay,
guidance.
Thank you. Simplify it. Sometimes simplifying, I think, can help better summarize it.
So they removed the funding pause once the P3CO came out. Conveniently, that happened in December of 2017. Okay. Yep. 2 days later, Fauci comes out and says Trump is going to have to deal with a pandemic.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay, 2 days later.
Yep.
So, and I apologize, I didn't go through that last panel. I went down to this. I apologize. So, nevertheless, what they did then in 2014 is they took an existing infrastructure, global infrastructure, using the WHO, using the G7, G20 network. They took that infrastructure and expanded it. Okay? Mm-hmm. That expansion was done via this mapping. Okay, let me walk through the mapping because this is the key to this whole thing. This institutional web of control was put in place in 2012, leveraged in 2017, and put into action in 2020. Okay.
Leveraged as almost like a threat?
No, let me go through the slide.
Okay.
So when you're controlling a system, the first thing you got to do is acquire legitimacy. And you do that through your partners. So you're using things like the WHO, the World Bank, the UN. That gives you political cover. Then you have to bring in your academics, right? Like the Gates Foundation, Wellcome.
Okay, yep.
They bring in so you can get a consensus research.
Okay.
They then use the media like Lancet and Nature to give you the force multiplier of legitimacy,
really? Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So we've proven it.
Yep.
So then what that does is it gives you this air of we're serious folks and we're the real good guys, right?
Yeah.
But then you have to control the flow of capital. So once you put this into the flow of capital is important.
You
need money.
It. Yeah.
Right. So in taking the flow of capital, you want to be able to leverage grant authorizing entities like NIAID,
what do you mean by
like the DoD, like USAID.
Okay, what do you mean by leverage it?
You want to be able to put a system in place that allows you to use grant money in a different way than what it's intended.
Oh, like corrupt ways.
The corrupt ways.
Okay.
Notice, did you hear what I said? You notice USAID, right?
Yes.
NIH, right? DITRA, right? Actually, oops. Walter Reed was a huge funding mechanism.
Wow.
So that gives it the DoD. Now, why the DoD piece? Because gain of function required open and transparent. All they had to do under the MIC is call it military readiness, national security. It gave it that secrecy that you could keep hidden from any
classified
oversight.
Nature of it. All right.
Right.
Wow.
And it provided the military or DoD with a double shield. right? That double shield, because the way you're framing the research, it provided a political stalemate. Now, I don't expect that you remember what happened in 2013. I don't know anybody in here that can off the top of their head remember what happened in 2013. I do, because we were impacted. That was the year of sequestration. That's when they took all kinds of money away from DOD. 2 years of sequestration, hard cuts. So it's also the year ISIS, 2012 and 13 is the year ISIS went off the rails. Now your battlefield has got funding.
I was going to say that Muslim Brotherhood was
Right.
Arab Springs and all
So
that.
now you've got funding to secure the battlefield, right? The
Holy
soldier.
shit!
Now,
Wow.
so your independent research, your
So they're
operational
funding
nature,
terrorism with all this.
funded terrorism.
Oh my!
The other
gosh,
piece to
Feisty.
this is now that's half of your model, right? The other half of it is all your research and clandestine activities. There was a second year of sequestration that went after that discretionary spending. This bypassed that, took all this grant money, sent it offshore to keep the the
Plausible
Department of Defense.
deniability.
Right. So by taking it offshore, and they funded Wuhan and more, I'll show you in a second, but they moved the risk for gain of function research outside of our regulatory and oversight jurisdictions.
Yeah, we all know that.
Right. So the final thing there is, and all you have to do is maintain that firewall. And they use, like I said, they use the national security and other legal shields to keep that system
But
hidden.
if you wanted to hold these people accountable, you could just go back to when it was first being implemented and say, hey, what was the meaning behind all these efforts to offshore all of this?
I think we've
data?
got proof of all of this now. I don't know where it's going. I don't know why it's going. I don't know who's going to be held accountable. I'm
But you
just
can go
describing
back
the
to the
system they use.
intention of creating this whole system in
Well,
the first place.
let me show you how it's getting bigger, because the Anthropic story
Yep.
is leveraging this piece. These are different players, right? These are different players that, you got the CSIS right in here. You've got different players in the public-private partnerships, but this is where it's being expanded. And I'll show you that. That's why I had to tell this story. Let me finish this story. So by the time you offshore the risk, you're using all this grant money to the tune of trillions, by the way. You now can expand your global infrastructure, right? Add this outer layer. Just take a gaze around this outer circle. You've got the global and university consortia, right? That's where all these international universities became a part of the plan. We've seen many of them mentioned. You got the
Oh.
Central Asia node. We're talking Wuhan, right? They're in the
Yeah,
inside.
yeah.
But now we're looking at the Central Asia, East Asia, Oceania, Southeast Asia. You got data centers and